Good evening, I'm Zaraganat. Welcome to the studio this evening. So, what we're going to be doing is clearing this up. More on the rug. At least for a while. Now I've got to work out again, as I always do, just how far I've got. So that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. That's 4. We're going that way. I was counting the yellow lines, basically. So, here we go. Now we start coming up against this other triangle. To think what to call the thing then. And I've got to avoid going into that triangle space. It's probably going to be a brown triangle, I think. Well, no, it's not probably, it is going to be a triangle. It could, I suppose, be dark green, but brown's one I haven't used before. So what I'm going to do, I think, is continue for a while, use up some of this wool that's piled up in front of me, and then once I've used up that wool, I'll put some of that brown triangle in, probably some more of this green as well. Now for anybody who is watching, good evening. You're watching me make a rug. It's using, well, I don't know what the proper terminology for it is, if there is a proper terminology for it. The manufacturer of this particular needle describes what I'm doing here as punchcraft. I guess on account of the fact that you're punching a needle through material. And these needles come in various sizes. This one is suitable for canvas and wool, and it gets all the way down to embroidery floss and some special material for embroidery floss. So what's happening is essentially I'm driving the needle through the existing holes where the to get technical, the warp and the weft cross each other. So I can never remember which one's which, but one of them is the vertical strands and the others are horizontal strands. And of course where they cross each other you get a little tiny, in this particular case, a little tiny hole, because the warp and weft strands are not so tightly adjacent to each other to fill in the holes. So this is canvas, of course. Well, not of course, but it is canvas. Canvas generally has a loose weave like this, which makes it a bit easier for the needle to push the threads apart and drive through, dragging with it a length of wool, which when I pull the needle back out leaves that length of wool behind on the other side, creating a loop. So this that you're looking at here is the back, and the other side is the front. Most of the time the front is the presentation side, although some people do prefer this side. But as they say, there's no accounting for taste. So the wool goes down through the centre of the needle and comes out the side near the point. The fact that it comes out the side is important. This wouldn't work if it didn't. So when you're doing this, if you ever forget to thread the needle properly and just leave it poking out the end, nothing happens. You don't get things on the other side. You just get a lot of holes. So really, you put this through where you feel like it, and you can create what's on the other side is a load of loops like what I'm holding in my hand here on this side, where you can see the front. On camera at this moment in time, this bit, which is the front, you probably can't see very well, but we'll show it at some other point. You can have as many loops in an area as you want. Not strictly true. You can only get so many in there, but you know, up until that limit you can be as sparse or as tightly packed as you want. If you actually wanted as a rug to be like a rug, then how many loops you pack into an area determines how soft it is. You don't want it too soft, it becomes not very hard wearing if you do that. Not that it's a particularly hard wearing thing anyway, but the wool will easily get crushed and not look as good as it might do. If you put if you get too few, and you also see the gaps between them, so you see the canvas in between. And so that, generally speaking, doesn't look good. So there is sort of a happy medium, I guess, of just how many loops in an area, which where the wool sort of supports the threads that you're pushing through, because there's enough of them to support it. They don't collapse very easily, and equally, you don't see bare patches through between the loops. Now generally that's about the width of a needle, so each stitch is roughly the width of a needle apart, and each row is roughly the width of a needle apart, and that seems to produce a reasonably sort of populated space, and you can then obviously work from that, put more in if you want it, less in if you want it. So that seems to be a good working position to start from. And you can see me, I'm sort of holding this material fairly taut. I'm not pulling particularly, I'm just sort of holding it firm. It is easy to punch through the material if it's held reasonably firm. I'm not pulling on it because that will tend to distort the canvas. I've already had problems with that earlier on. So this is just holding it sort of just tight enough so that the needle will penetrate through, and you know, basically not spend hours trying to get the needle to go through. If the canvas is too loose, it can be quite difficult to work with. Now, on smaller pieces of work, you can use like an embroidery hoop or an embroidery frame to do this sort of thing with, which will tend to hold the canvas somewhat firmly for you. Makes it a bit easier to work as well, because just doing it this way with a loose end, in my case rolling it up to make it easy to hold, is more challenging than using a fixed frame of some kind. Cutting off the tails here. I mean, you can see I can span across there with some wool, but I'm going to put green in there, that would make it more awkward. I'd also waste more wool, so I cut it off. The tails, where I start from, which this will leave a tail, just so you'll see it in a moment sticking up. There, which is the start of a section. I personally like to cut them off. I will say almost as soon as they're created. When I cut off the end, I normally cut off the start tail as well. That's just because it's sort of a bit easier to catch and pull loops out with if I leave them in. So I do tend to sort of clean them up as I go along. Okay, so I hold a loop in place as I pull more thread out on the from the pen. or the needle, just because if I didn't hold it in place I would actually pull the loop out, and that wouldn't be very good. I'd have to put it back in again. Now I could hold it in place by putting my finger on the other side of it, but with a canvas this wide and the fact that I'm holding part of it means that it's that would be quite a difficult thing to do, so I hold it on this side using the same finger as I'm pulling the thread out with. Now one of the thoughts I've had about rug making like this is it would be easier with a different type of frame that would hold the roll in place and then allow me to sort of stabilize this, perhaps with a sort of like a channel or a gap into which the needle can go through, and then another piece of wood on this side that I can just rest my arm on or hand on just to hold the canvas firm. Not got around to making one of those yet because this is my first large scale rug. I've made sort of small things, about an inch, foot square, 12-inch square. That'll be about 30 centimeters square. I made a few of those before, but this one is 27 inches wide by 34 inches long, so this is the biggest rug I've made to date. Now what I'm aiming for here is a fairly regular, I keep calling it stitch, loops, yeah, is it a stitch? Don't really know what you call it, but a fairly regular pattern of them, or a fairly regular even spacing. That means that the other side looks just as good, you don't get too many sort of packed in looking places that you might get if you're not very even about doing this. So I'm just going to have a drink of tea before I do any more. May even finish this ball of wool off, we'll see. Trying to keep the same sort of spacing all the way across. It is made harder by the fact that I've got this break in the middle from the triangles. I'm trying to keep this line, if you like, roughly aligned with the one that I just did on to its left, and I'll try and align the one on the right roughly with this one as well, so when you're looking at it from the other side your eye sort of naturally just follows across. In retrospect, although it looks good, this rainbow sort of coloured wool does make doing this sort of a little bit more difficult. If I'd been using a solid colour, it would have been fairly simple, like just to fill this bit in here. As long as I keep a reasonably regular stitch spacing, I can do it in any order I like, you know, any rows, go around your circles, go around the edge, come back, you know, it didn't really matter. Because I'm doing it with rainbow coloured wool, it does matter. It does matter that they line up, because it's kind of what you expect. Thought I had a pussycat, but apparently not. Or if he did, he came in and went back out again. I say he because it's unlikely to be Emmy, the female cat. Most likely candidate was Junior, because both Theo and Emmy are quite vocal. And Felix doesn't come in here. Felix will be curled up somewhere. Probably near a radiator, I suspect. Now sometimes if you end up leaving a large gap between rows, what you can do is pack the stitches in closer together, and that way they sort of fill in the gap. Sounds a bit like a tube train or a London Underground assignment then. London Underground announcement. Fill in the gap. Mind the doors. Fill in the gap. Now while you're doing this, occasionally you'll find that the needle sort of stops, and that's because you've managed to get the needle precisely on a thread, and it isn't going one way and it isn't going the other. And what you shouldn't do at that point is continue to press and force it, because you will actually end up breaking the thread. And the odd one isn't really a problem, but if you do it a lot, you can then end up sort of creating fairly big holes, and the whole thing really doesn't work like that. So if it sort of appears to jam, stop, don't keep trying to push it through. Just raise the needle slightly, waggle it a little bit from side to side to get the needle from sort of trying to punch its way through the middle of a thread, and then just carry on as normal. If you do accidentally break a thread, don't worry about it, just carry on. If you're breaking them a lot, then maybe you want to look at your technique. I must throw those magic dots away. Got all packets of them there that are absolutely of no use to me now that the picture is complete. If you can get the rhythm up, which is partly down to just how easily the needle actually pulls out of the canvas, then this gets kind of quite zen-like at times. You know, you can almost get lost in it. Play some music like there's being, you know, in the background here, and you just let your mind wander. It can be quite a relaxing experience. Okay, let's unravel the rest of this wool and then we'll use this wool up. This is light enough probably to unravel by itself straight into the pen, but we'll do it this way, which is how we've done the rest of the ball, just to make sure. Anybody wondering why I'm doing this? If I unravel the wool, then as I put it on this side here, on this side, if I bring the wool over here, what would happen is I'd be piling wool on top of it, and as I was trying to pull it out from underneath through the pen, it would basically all knot up and jam up, and the pen would, the needle would start pulling the loops back out. If I, having created the pile over on this side, if I then sort of pull it backwards, and then sort of piling the end on the bottom up until I get back to the bit that's connected to the needle, which is on the top. So as I work the needle, I'm pulling it off the top of the pile, not the bottom. I still find it fascinating in a way just how this creates a loop and actually sort of makes a rug on the other side. I mean, technically I know how it does it, etc., but it still sort of amazes me. Now getting close to the end of this thread, or this ball of wool. When you do, not really a problem, just basically keep going until it runs out. And then load another thread up and carry on. It would be ideal here if there was just enough thread to do to the end of the row. May or may not be, just because it would make starting another ball easier, especially if it doesn't happen to have the same starting colour as this ends in. But essentially you end just like that, and we're done. We're out of that thread, and I think we'll leave that for tonight as well. That wants some more green in it. That's a bit too sparse. All you do with that, by the way, is just go in and punch some more in, which is what we'll probably do maybe on the next stream. But I think we will leave it for now. And then I keep seeing ends. Where an end sort of pops through because a loop on this side is caught or whatever. Sometimes you catch them with a needle and it pulls, especially an end thread out. But I think that will do. We're not doing too bad. It's motoring along. Nearly filled up this bit here. We'll start filling the green, I think, not the black because I've run out of black. I've got a little bit left, but I want to save that to match in with another black when I get it. That'll be a couple of weeks before I get any more black though, so we might have to come back and fill that in afterwards, but we'll perhaps patch in a little bit more green and then complete the triangle and start the brown triangle on the next stream. Our next stream will be on Friday from approximately 7 PM UK time. That's British summer time at the moment. We're an hour ahead of GMT, but Google will help you work that out in your own local time zone if you're not in the UK. If you feel like supporting the channel, that would be very gratefully received. The two buttons up at the top where you've got the opportunity to follow the channel and get notifications when I go live, as well as subscribe and the bits there. The subscriptions and the bits all go towards helping the channel by buying material, like buying wool, which is about £3 a ball. Doesn't sound much, but there's a fair bit gets used. Or wood for the carving, or scraper board for the scraper board, and all these sorts of things that get made on the stream. If you'd like to see any of the past broadcasts, some of them are available here on Twitch, but you can also watch them on YouTube, youtube.com/SavaganArt. And if you'd like a direct notification from me, rather than relying on Twitch for when I go live, and also for odd other bits, like if I can't go live or interesting things happening, then please follow me on Twitter. I'm at SavaganArt, so twitter.com/SavaganArt. And if you would care to check out my own website, SavaganArt.com, it's a work in progress, but it does hopefully start to give you a little bit more information about some of the art forms that have been done here on stream. And with that, I look forward to seeing you on the next stream on Friday. Bye for now.